how crazy the world is anyway, right? So it's more consciousness to us.
True.
Okay, so let's start as usual with questions, especially about what we went through last week. It was a little complicated, but I hope that we can clear things up today and make it easier to absorb. So last week we started with how to enhance the different intelligences individually by specific activities. And we started with wood intelligence, of course, rational thinking, and emotional intelligence. And I believe we started a little bit with the earth, but we haven't time to do the whole thing yet. But don't worry, the main thing is don't try to remember by heart. Just connect with it, read, your notes, go check of course, the material, the printing of the first part of that book, the third booklets, I believe already you have a list of different activities there, and I'm still working on that. So that's the work of, for me, the work of writing. It's like a painting. When you do your painting, you do the outer line first, and so I write, the outer line, the content, and everything. And every time I look at the books, like looking at the painting, you add a little something, and so the book is in progress like that. The painting is not done yet. Okay, so let's start with question, if there is any question first. Check on the chat. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is how to feel, sense, or use these 5 groups of intelligences.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a clear idea of what is a thought, and I know when I'm thinking. I have a clear idea of when I'm feeling, and I have a clear idea of when I'm present.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm not so clear how this water element or this fire element, do I need to sense it, or is it how is it? Is it a thought? Is it a feeling?
Basically, that was going to today, the spiritual axis. So it's not so much to try to do something, but actually to catch yourself while you're doing it, because we do it all the time. And we just use our instinct all the time. We use we're attracted to things all the time, but we think about it. Therefore, we don't really know, we don't really differentiate our thinking process from the reflex, from the attraction we have on water and fire intelligences. And so that's why those exercises. So I advise to go back also to the one of the first exercises I gave you about being at the restaurant and asking your different intelligences what you feel really like eating today according to those intelligences. So be able to switch from one to intelligence to the other. So what we do now is to be able to catch ourselves while we're doing it without knowing it. So basically, we're becoming more and more conscious of which part of our mind we're using at any given moment. And usually, it's not only one part of your mind, but a combination, of course, with always the delayed reaction of the thinking process, realizing that, oh, that's why I behave like that. Because the thinking always comes last. And that's what remains the longest, of course, because we reflect on it all the time. And all the other intelligences are present, and present, you can grasp it. It can be grasped only with that delayed reaction from the thinking process. And that's what we're doing right now, be able to juggle, basically, with this extraordinary capacity of rational thinking, that's going to bring us the consciousness of which part of our mind we're being controlled by, instead of choosing to use the power of those intelligences, the way we can actually manage our life more easily. That works?
Yeah, it is. So it's more like reflexes. The
That's
fire.
that's water. Water is reflex.
Mhm.
So see, that's the landscape on my back. Landscape on my back. That's the snow and the ice where water is coming from. That's the picture was taken in the last summer, and it doesn't it very rarely snows in the summer. And the snow and the ice has been there for a long time. Some of the ice up there never melted. You know, there's maybe some piece of glaciers and stuff like that that always never melts really, and always pile up more according to the kind of climate we're going to get any given years. That's, by the way, that's Mount Shasta back there in California. Yeah. So the ice and the snow, that's basically all the information in our genetic background. Basically, pattern of habits that's much older than we are. Meaning that those habits existed in, parents, grandparents, and whole lineage. And we are, as we talk about lineage, about to continue answering that question we had last week, but what is really that lineage? Is it only genetic, only bloodline, or is it can be also be tradition? Could it be cultural, ethnic? It's all of the above. Everything that constitutes basically pattern of habits that's older than we are. And because of that, and because it's so close to us, because it's not only in the present, it's the past that comes all the way to the present. This snow is melting all the time, and that's the water that's feeding the land, with all the green of the forest here, and where we are. So that water we drink, that's our present. But that water is coming all the way from the mountain. And you don't know, some could be coming from those glaciers that you don't know how old they are. So pattern of habits like that coming to us. And that's what we call reflex. So by reflex, we do all kinds of things. And the deeper and entrenched of all the reflexes, that's the one that keeps you alive. Remember that water gives you life, it holds the memory of life. And inside that memory of life, you have everything that's autonomic in your system. Unfortunately, you don't need to understand and to remember how to breathe. You do that as a reflex, how to digest, how to basically how to function at the biological level. All this is very deeply imprinted in the in your behavior, in your as a reflex, as a pattern of habit. And those habits, of course, you want to keep. But like any habits, they can improve. So even though your pattern of breathing, how to breathe, by reflex, knowing how to breathe and being conscious of the breath allows you to have a better breath. So that means you're filtering out the water and take only the very best from wherever that water is coming from. Now remember that water is eternal. The water you drink is not gone. No, it's going to come out. You're going to perspire. You're going to pee out. It's going to evaporate. It goes back into a cloud and goes back into that mountain. So it's recycled all the time. Water keeps coming back. And with it, the pattern of habit of life. Remember that the power of water is to hold the memory of life. Water holds information. It holds the memory. It holds the footprints, basically. It holds the blueprint. Uh, not only the footprints of everything that's been alive before you, but the blueprints that designed actually life from the beginning and the whole history of the evolution of life. So it's a tremendous amount of information out there. That works? So yes, to know when is it that I'm using my water intelligence, well, it is all the time. Now, how much of that water is still has some chunk of ice in it? You try to drink. So maybe you want to avoid swallowing a chunk of ice. So that's what we do in the present, where we pay attention to what comes as a pattern of habit in our present and be able to choose only the very best, only the clearest part of that water, and the more limpid, the freshest, and the one that's been exposed to the sun. So the UV rays kill the bacteria in there, it kills all the viruses and everything we don't want to drink. So it's not purified, it's filtered and energized. So in water, yes, we remove impurities, I will call them impurities, but we add energy. It's that energy that gives vitality. So that reflects in your mind. So the part of your mind that holds vitality is coming from water. So where do you find vitality in your body? Well, it's you have to describe how you feel. If you're happy, for example, you have to check with all the intelligences how they manifest the happiness. So how do you know? So you know that the fire is going to bring a smile on your face. And not only a smile on your face, but to feel the warmth in your heart. So you say, oh, I'm happy in my fire. But then you feel the sweetness in your stomach. So I feel, wow, I feel comfortable. I feel happy in the way you are, the way I feel in myself. And the way, mental satisfaction, emotional satisfaction, that's the soul access. But to stay in the spiritual access, where are you going to find vitality? In your feet. Happy feet. Remember the penguin on ice? Yes, vitality in your feet. That's what you find in the water intelligence when you're happy, wanting to dance, wanting to move. That's what gives vitality. That works. And of course, for people that do Chinese medicine, that know very well that the grand wire meridian system, the kine meridian, start at the bottom of the foot, or the feet, both feet. And that's where you have kine, we call the kine energy, kine meridian, going from foot to chest, and that gives a vitality to the whole body. And that's the source of the legendary, search for eternity, eternal life, with the work of Tai Chi and Tai Chi Chuan, and all the Taoist practices that do a lot of Qigong and practice based on building the capacity to draw that energy from the ground. So it's not so much you need to draw you're not pumping. You need to do what nature does. Nature doesn't pump water out. It makes the water surge. It's different. So how you surge the water energy in your kidney meridian? Well, it's polarity. It's working with energy. yang energy down, then yin energy can go up. You cannot pump up yin. Yin is passive, so he has to come on his own. But yang is active. The yang energy, you drop. And that's why all the yoga, tai chi, qigong is based on rooting, they call, dropping your weight, dropping, letting go, letting drop of your energy. And when you drop your yang energy, it gets grounded, it creates a vacuum for the yin energy, vitality to come in. So that's the biology of water, water energy. And that water energy, basically, that's what gives you that part of your mind. That part of your mind, that's what gives you creativity. Creativity is not imagination. Imagination is to be able to get your mind something that's not present, something that, fantasy. So when you get to fantasy, you're not creating anything. You're just having fun with possibilities. But in order to have fun with possibilities, you have to have the seed of that creativity. You have to get that called the genius, the idea, the basic idea or concept or even paradigm, that perspective that gives you the seed, the seed that holds the whole potential of a whole tree in there. So the seed, that's the water. Then when it starts to germinate and start to grow roots, then you start to develop the wood energy, all the possibility that you can do with a seed. But first you need a seed. And seed, that's the creativity, the basic idea from which is gonna spring out all those different possibilities, all new ideas, all the theories, all the plans, all the wood work. It is woodwork. It's very like growing from there. So where do you find most of creativity? It's in the youth, of course. Now look at any babies, any young kids. They're going to invent things from the start. Everything they touch, they reinvent. So to be able to invent, to be able to renew, to be able to, it's basically it's refreshing your water. What we do after that is just watering the garden with that water. It's called education. That works. So the creative mind, that's water. Any questions about that? Let me see. There. I'm gonna get my documents in front of me. Too bad if you don't see it. At least I can see it myself. So I don't forget anything.
I can share if you want.
Oh, do you see it?
No, I don't see yours.
Okay, no, this doesn't matter. It's okay. Because you're gonna get it, I'm gonna send it to you, and then people can read it at home and then come back with questions and everything.
Gilles?
Yeah. Go ahead,
je peux te poser la question en français?
Ok.
Moi, j'aimerais savoir la différence, tu sais, quand tu nous dis, quand on a peur, il ne faut pas prendre de décision.
Yes. So let me translate first. The question is about water. It's about when we have fear. And I was always saying that when in fear, never take a decision. Don't choose to do something on fear. The reason why, because when you are in fear, basically the fear means you swallow a piece of glass in your water.
Okay.
You get frozen. So that means you're dealing with a reflex that doesn't belong to the present. Fear is a reflex that resonates with whatever put that fear in your bloodline. And
Okay.
we have all different reasons to be afraid of things, and that's okay. And it's good to be afraid because that prevents you from doing stupid things.
Mhm.
Because people they climb mountains and they fall, and you learn the bloodline that maybe you should be more careful when you climb a mountain. So eventually you learn to be more careful and not to make mistakes.
Mhm.
But when you're not on the mountain climbing and you are in fear because of something completely different, then your vibration of fear is going to be as intense as you were falling off the mountain.
Okay.
So you're going to do something that's completely unrelated to the present. You're going to take a decision to try to make you feel not be afraid, but it's not going to be accurate.
Okay.
And that's why fear is so dangerous in terms of being manipulated or mind being manipulated. And that's very well known in politics. If you keep people under fear, it's so easy to control because they're so predictable.
Mm.
Look what happens on earthquakes. People react very differently. But the very common thing to do is just to start running. But that's the most dangerous thing you could do. You run without looking where you're going. And you remember the big earthquake in, what was it, 90 something? In the early 90s, 91, 92, I don't remember, in San Francisco.
89.
Huh?
89.
90?
89.
89, 89. It was a long time already. Downtown San Francisco, the big, tall building, windows were falling off from, very high with ice, not ice, but glass, broken glass falling off, very dangerous. And people were running around the building,
Ah oui.
And running without knowing where to run. It's like a chicken. A chicken get crossing the street because they see a car coming, and they keep crossing because they don't know what to do but running.
Yeah.
So basically, as a reflex, being a reflex, it's something that's very hard to control because it's coming from so far and so old, it's so deeply imprinted in the body. But if you catch yourself running while there is an earthquake, then you have to remember, you have to get that piece of consciousness that comes from wood that tells you, you are running and it's an earthquake. This is dangerous.
Mm.
And even though you might know that, it's still hard to stop running. So that means that by reflex, you're pushed to do the wrong thing.
Okay.
And it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that because you're doing something that maybe saved someone in your bloodline, but that person was not, probably not in the middle of an earthquake. You need to upgrade that reflex for your next generation. There might be another earthquake to do something safer.
Mm.
Maybe if you want to run away from where the windows are falling off, but look at where you're going instead of just running with like blindness in your eyes.
Mm.
Yeah. You have to pay attention, basically.
Mm.
So this is under anything. You get an advertisement on TV that makes you afraid of this and that because they want you to buy something. And you're going to buy it, and that's it. And then what? What you're going to do with it? No. So same thing, getting more and more insurances. Yeah, insurance is not going to protect you from what you're covered from.
Mm.
This is just a promise of giving you some money if something bad happens to you. It's just a promise.
Okay. Mm. Yes.
So most of that is not even kept. Yeah.
Mm.
So does that answer the question?
Oui, et la seconde question, c'est l'autre différence avec l'eau.
Yeah.
Une fois, j'étais allé en stage avec toi
Uh-huh.
et je t'avais dit que voilà, j'étais content de vous voir, mais j'avais pas envie d'être là.
Yeah.
Et tu m'as répondu, c'est bien.
Mhm.
Tu n'as pas écouté ton instinct, mais ton intuition.
Exactly. So let me translate. So you remember once you came to one of my workshops and you were saying that you didn't feel like coming, but I came anyway. So I told you that this is very good because you felt by instinct you were afraid to come, but you follow your intuition instead. So that's the difference between following water and fire.
Yeah.
So in order to really go where your destiny is calling you, which is your fire, your guidance, you have first to get rid of that. Before you can get rid of it, you have to be aware that you're afraid. And so you tell, okay, I'm very afraid. So you know that there is something that's trying to control you from the past, but you are attracted to something that you know is going to be good for you. And that piece of awareness allows you to decide. And where that decision is coming from, it's not coming from your fire, it's not coming from your water, it's coming from earth.
Okay.
So basically, you're able to bring the water, your water intelligence to the present and let your body filter out because it's not all bad, all that water. Okay. So you know that during a workshop, your emotion is going to be stirred up. So yes, you've been there before. You know that it's not going to feel so good, but your fire is telling you got to go because there's something in there that's important for you for your future. So basically, it's being able to differentiate between your past and your future, and that can only be done from the perspective of the present, and that's your earth intelligence.
Okay.
That's where all decisions have to come from. Not from calculation, which is wood, because the wood gets lost into all the different possibilities. It's not able to choose. Not from metal either, because metal is going to be more attracted to either what gives you an advantage as a social status, or makes you feel good, about feelings and things like that. And it's not necessarily what, the reflection of light. It's not the light itself. And that's very difficult also to differentiate, because the metal shines. We're attracted to that shine, but the shine of the light is not the light itself.
Okay.
And that's why it's difficult. So again, that's why it's so important for me to be able to differentiate those intelligences so we know how we function.
Okay. Merci.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I see like thinking faces there. Life is not easy.
I was thinking about water last night. I was watching a nature documentary. Just seeing the animals is just like so strong in the water. The little turtles hatch out of their eggs and they know to swim to the ocean as fast as possible. And migrations and stuff. I mean, the water is so strong. You can see it in animals, and we're mostly
keeps
animals.
You alive, basically.
Yeah, and we're mostly animals, so that water power in us is so strong.
Absolutely. So again, there's nothing wrong there. Or the only wrong thing is not to be aware of it. Because once you know that you're mostly made of water, is that the most of your intelligence is going to make you repeat what has been done in the past, that's okay, as long as you know, as long as you're able to differentiate it between what you are driven to do and what you really attracted to do. That's what most of people can't even make that difference. And that's the difference between instinct and intuition. Look at the dictionary. They put it as synonyms. They are antonyms. Yes. Intuition and instinct, very different, like day and night. But according to the most common way of thinking, even from the most academic place where dictionaries and encyclopedia is coming from, there are synonyms. No, you cannot use one for the other. And if you do, it's a mistake. Instinct is going to bring you from in your past. Only your intuition drives you toward your future. And of course, your water is going to go toward the future, like any rivers go toward the ocean. But that's okay. But again, the only what's not okay is not to be aware of it. It's be able to know what it is that you're doing and why. So that water is a big one. And that's why, I choose not to start last week. The easiest, to differentiate for, where we are at the human consciousness right now is a differentiation between thinking and feelings, even though it's not so easy yet. It's all in your head, as they say. There's many things in my head, including my teeth, all those things. It's not only a brain. So again, most important things, differentiating your brain from your mind, two different things. And that's something we're stuck at the scientific level even. And the science of consciousness is not, about analyzing the brain. Yes, the brain is important because it's a major infrastructure for the mind to manifest, but it's just infrastructure. It's not. The river is where the water is, not what's not what's on the map. On the map, you have the place where the water is running. The place where the water is running and the water is two different things. So it's very confusing because the water has a tendency to, habit. By habit, it's going to run on the same place, more or less. But it might change. Sometimes it dries out, or it goes underground. In most of the rivers, the underground part of the river is often bigger than the river itself. We don't see it. But the river, that's where the water is, not where it's supposed to be. Okay. So that's what's happening. The same thing that we do, all the time with our mind, we do with ourselves. So, to think that our brain is our mind is to think that the map of the river is the river. No, it's just a map. Yeah. That works. Yeah. So basically, when you look at the menu, what is the part of your mind that's going to come out of water is basically the most familiar, the most habitual part of the menu. You know that you can always fall back in water. You always fall back in the past because if you're born, like everyone survived on the bloodline. that's why you're alive yourself. So you can always fall back into all pattern of habits. But that doesn't mean it's current. So you want to say, okay, that's what, I am like a European, Northern European, person. Therefore, I'd be happy with meat and potatoes or meat and wheat, for example, things like that. So yeah, we can always choose something like that. But then if you listen to other part of your mind, then you might be able to differentiate, so yeah, but same water, same place all the time, that's a little boring. Let's look for something new. That's your fire. Let's try something different. And again, if you start to calculate, well, but this is too expensive, or whatever, doesn't fit my budget, that's wood talking, rational thinking. And as soon as you go to feelings, yeah, but this could make me really feel good. This looks fancy, fancy kind of food. That's metal. But again, you're going to have to listen to that central or fifth or central part of your intelligence that's going to decide, yeah, but right now I feel like this. So the earth intelligence that gather the water and the fire together, the metal and the wood, and making like a round table, and then decide from all those different powers around, it looks like this is going to win, according to what's going on right here, right now. I'm going to decide. I could go completely to like one of the intelligences, because it's more appropriate for what's going on in the present. Well, you don't know until you're there. Again, Earth is present, so present changes all the time. Yeah. Being able to juggle with those intelligences. That works? So to review a little bit before we get deeper into water and fire, I like to always get the global pictures, always never lose the sight of the called the holistic approach and the whole picture before you get into details. So from the wood, from the rational thinking perspective, so anything that gets you to think, to calculate, to get to analysis, or to learn something. So your nervous system is always want to learn. It's a learning machine. You want to absorb. You want to grow. So it's a growing. It's a cultivation. And yes, wood feels fire. So when you learn something new, it makes you want to experiment something you've never done before. So the wood is going to feed the fire. So your rational thinking is going to feed your spirit. That's going to attract you toward like an unknown place, about doing something that's maybe no one done before, or just yourself never done that. So it's interesting to experiment. So you learn, you participate to your one of the big life purpose we have is to create our own marker in our genetic background, something private, and that's the mark of you that been through life, and that's going to be parts of the consciousness that's going to become the past for future generation. You're going to be the old water one day. Everything you did, everything you learned in your lifetime. So that's the way it works, basically. So the wood is anything that bring your thinking process, but also that again, imagination, something even doesn't exist, pure fancy, pure everything that's connected with speculation, so and then from there you're thinking, and you think that you're creating a new reality, and that's the danger of wood overgrowth. And you're speculating on something that might never happen, and so everything connected with mind games like that. So that's why it's very important to be clear, you have to calculate, you have to make approximations, but never take a decision from there either. The same way you don't want to take a decision from water because it's going to make you make a mistake. If you take a decision from the wood perspective, most probably you're going to miss the target because you have so many different possibilities from a few. what you're going to choose is because what you think is going to give you some kind of advantage or make you richer or give you something like that. But it's just a possibility. If you take a decision from there, big chance you're going to make a mistake also. Water feeds wood. And wood feeds fire. So you get into that cycle where you actually going around the targets. And what feeds water is metal. From your feelings give that energy to make that water spring out. So it's the conductor. You put the conductor of the energy, then the energy can run through. So the bigger and the more quality that conductor, the stronger the water surge. So that's the work of metal from your feelings. So the feelings, again, that's your soul. And that's the cultivation, probably the highest level of cultivation we have to go through in life. And it's the extraction of metal and the making the right alloy and the polishing and sharpening and all that work that eventually brings that water out. That's going to feed your wood. That's going to feed your fire. And the fire basically is going to go basically melt the new metal going through your earth. Earth is created, basically your present is made of what you're attracted to do in the future. You bring yourself there. And so here you have the full cycle of the intelligences working. So I know I'm going to get you all confused now because it's very hard to juggle with 5. But think about 2 and 3. It's better. You have 1, which is the earth at the center. And then you have 2 axes. The spiritual axis from water to fire. And the soul axis from metal to wood. So it's a cross. It's kind of a cross. It's a 3-dimensional cross where actually it's more like a sphere. It's funny that in religions we have those symbols already. You have, especially in our Western world, we have with Christianity we have the cross, of course, but it has nothing to do with the story. With the crucifixion, that's horrible. I mean, that's a torture instrument, and I don't even think about it. It shouldn't be used that way. And also it's very unbalanced. You have one big being and a small being like this. I mean, basically the big being in the center, that's the spiritual axis. So being dominated by your water, basically, because the crossing is not at the center, it's way high up there. And so the bottom of the cross, that's water. Very small fire on top. And then your soul, where you're hanging there, right? Left and right. Not a very good symbol. A better symbol of the cross is the basic cross with the exactly same beams with the center at the center. And that's the cross we find in all the most of all the different religions around the world. And some are spinning, that makes a swastika, left or right or whatever. But also, and even in Christianity we find it, there is a equal cross like that, but it's not found on the cross itself. It's on that globe, that the emperor is holding, or the pope or whatever. There is that globe with a cross on it that shows the 3-dimensional cross. So that globe is actually the representation, more representation of your soul, with the yin metal part from the center that emerges and shines out, with the yang part around, which is the thinking, which is the belief system. Did I go a little too far too fast? I get excited. Sorry. So questions. I'm going to pose for question because I'm going kind of fast, I think.
If anybody's a three-dimensional computer modeler,
oh yeah, that'd be nice. Mm-hmm. That works.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said the spiritual axis is water, fire, and what is the metal wood axis?
That's your soul.
Soul axis. Okay, thank you.
Your soul, that's what's personal. That's what you refer as me, myself. And when you actually say me, myself, that's your body. And that's the earth, that's the center. And in the center, on the earth, you have called metal and wood, which is your soul and your belief system, your rational thinking. So the soul, that's your metal, that's connected with your emotional intelligence. And your wood, that's what grows. That's your, we call intelligence in English. That's the way of thinking, the belief system that you build for yourself. That's personal. So even though, again, all the thoughts, all the concept, everything you learn from someone else, the way you put it together into a belief system, that's your own. That's your responsibility. You create your belief system according to what you learn. But the way you feel deep inside, your feelings, it's the way you cultivate something different. It's about your feeling. It's about how you grow as a person going through the experience of life. And that basically involves something very physical that I call emotional digestion. You grow with your capacity to digest your reactions to the events of life. And it makes you grow as a person. That's your soul, basically. And that's private, that's your own, right? So your soul, what called the soul axis, that's from your feelings to your belief system, from metal to wood, from feelings to thinking, right? Feelings being present all the time, and those are your emotional world, that's in you. And your thinking, that's what you have to choose at any moment according to what's going on. And the choice is coming from the center place of earth, which is the center of the cross. It's not from metal, it's not from your soul, it's not from thinking. It's from the place that's able to take the decision that right here, right now, that's what's a functional thing to do in terms of creating a behavior. So that's earth. Then we have the spiritual axis. That's you share. Yes, it's part of you, but you share that information with your ancestors and your reflexes, all those pattern of habits that the results of all the lessons learned by everything that lived before you and gave you that information through your genes, through your DNA, through everything that constitutes a memory of life in yourself. That's water. And so that from the past, that water comes in the present, in your earth and your body chooses to take what you need from the past. You have to function, you have to live. So there's something very ancient at work there, which is all the autonomic metabolic responses in your body, but also in your way of thinking and your behavior, pattern of habits. You're not the first one in your bloodline that think that way, that feel that way, they have those kind of habits. So that's water going toward fire, which attracts you into the future. So that's the power of attraction that's gonna take you out of the water, because the water eventually gets too cold. You want to get to the warm, to the heat. So you expose yourself to the sun, to the warmth, and you go out of the water, out of the pattern of habits to discover something that's more enjoyable for you right now. That's your fire. And that's what gives you enthusiasm for life. So that gives you an enthusiasm for something that might be very new, never been done before. So that attracts you toward the future. So that's basically the cross between the spiritual axis and the soul axis anchored in your body right here, right now, which is the center of that cross.
So perhaps you don't want to go into it, but metal and wood, Po and Hun, is this?
It's exactly the same thing, yes.
Okay.
Po and Han, that's Chinese, and metal and wood, that's English.
Oh, okay.
That's all. It's translation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, if you're talking about translation, it's coming from a time where, see, there is something about important to know about history. See, is that like in the history of the thinking process in the West, we went through the Greek people and logic. We learned a lot from Greece. We learned the mathematics, we learned government, we learned democracy. Democracy is coming from Greece. We learn most of physics and all that. They've been translated into Latin, from the Roman, and eventually, we grew from there. But there is logic, and before logic, everything was more symbolic. Same thing in Chinese, but Chinese didn't go through the Greek process. They went from Lao Tzu to Confucius, the analects. So Confucius was younger than Lao Tzu. And Lao Tzu was the old grandfather. So Lao Tzu didn't have the same way of expressing himself than Confucius. And that's why I say, oh, everything that's a Taoist is so symbolic, is so poetic. Well, they couldn't speak any other way because they didn't go through the analysis and the system of laws that, morality that Confucius is famous for. So basically Confucianism it replaced what in the West we had as with the Greek philosophies and way of thinking. So that's a translation basically from metal to wood. It's a translation of symbols. That's the language of feelings, that's the language of emotions, into translation of understanding, making sense, and feeding the belief system. See, belief system only belongs to wood, because all the four other intelligence don't need to believe, because they know already. That's different. And that's where it's very important to differentiate those intelligences, because paradoxically, even though we make a belief system from rational thinking in wood perspective, this intelligence never knows. It's always in doubt. Always going to find a new theory, and what we think we know at one point, then it's wrong, and we have to upgrade, we have to change. But that's what gives the wealth of that intelligence. It's not to know, because always searching. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually perfect. We're using a belief system that never knows anything, and that's very good, because you oblige that our whole mind always to search for something better, always to improve. And that's called evolution of consciousness. Without it, Why bother? Just happy with the way you are, with what's going on, with what you know. Always living only with the information coming from the past and living only on reflexes. And a lot of things alive are just functioning that way. Maybe not. It's all depends what consciousness is all about. Actually, consciousness is everywhere. But we have a tendency to look at animals and plants and all this, working only on pattern of habits that they're all the same and no differentiation. So all spirit, but no soul. But actually, there is souls everywhere. There's a personality in every corner of the earth, every growth of trees and every tree and every plant. There's personality. It just needs to be discovered. So that's one of the big advantage, with reading the biology of consciousness. That it makes your life much richer. It brings your understanding of things much further, and allows that knowledge to spring forth from where all that knowledge is coming from. Your inner wisdom, because your body knows all those things. That's and again, that shows that everything I'm saying you already know. That's why you find it interesting. And there's a voice that you, oh yeah, that's the way it is. Where's that voice coming from? It's not my voice, it's yours. So everything that I'm telling you, you already know. And that's your earth intelligence. That's your body. Your body knows everything. Okay.
Gilles, FYI, we're already an hour into class, halfway through.
Okay. That's good.
Flying by.
That's okay. Again, the more time we take, the faster we go. We keep growing. So you guys are growing more dendrites and more synapses in your brain. And that takes time. It's a biological fact. You're getting a new perspective on life. That takes digestion. So that cannot be pushed, cannot be speed up. But what's important is while you're in it, it really grows. It really grows in there. Okay, so let's take a little pause and get into questions so you have time to think. Any questions coming up? Let me see. I have to go back to here, see about the chat. Oh, 11. Can you see them, David?
Yeah. If anybody wants to ask verbally a question that they typed, we're kind of having a little dialogue on there. Pipe in. Now's your time. Now's your chance. Elise.
Gilles, I appreciate what you said about belief systems, and it seems like the perspective you bring kind of solves the problem with them, because if you hold the belief system with the humility that it's always changing, then your belief system is flexible and able to adjust to others. So there's
absolutely.
Yeah. So
that's the flexibility of wood. And that's especially green wood, when wood is green and not brown and not dried out.
It's still growing.
It's still green.
Yeah.
Yes. And you drop the old leaves and you grow new leaves every year, and the tree grows. And the mind grows exactly the same way. If it's ruled by the same energy, you know that the trees are growing, but you don't see them growing. It grows slowly, but not that slowly, because you notice. One day you cannot see part of the horizon because there's a tree in front of it, right? Where the tree is coming from, when it grew, all of a sudden it's there. But it took its time, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our mind is growing the same way. Our belief system is going the same way. It doesn't take jumps. It takes a time. That's why, you know, the best thing, the most efficient thing in any kind of education, anything you learn, is to take your time. Yeah. And you learn an instrument, you learn a new techniques of things, and you step in dance. You have to decompose it slowly, to take your time, to see how you would enjoy doing it, you know, things like that. So there's no such thing as learning fast. If you learn fast, you don't get the right good synapses there. You lose it. Yeah. Okay. Questions? So I'm trying to use, you know, images that talks to people. So, you know, using the cross, that's a symbol that's so widely spread, you know, especially in the Western world. That's usually that talks, but that cross exists everywhere. And especially coming from the East, you know, from Asian perspective. You know, you have all those psychologists or scientists going to the Dalai Lama, you know, in Nepal or actually India, try to analyze the Dalai Lama. I mean, you know, that's why he laughs a lot. You know, he looks at those little guys. They don't know anything about anything, try to understand him, right? I mean, if you were born in Asia, especially in Tibet, that's highly spiritual, you know, everyone doing some kind of practice, you know, this differentiation of the mind is taken for granted. It's used all the time. You know, you see those little flags, those 5 colored flags hanging everywhere. That's what they represent. They represent consciousness. Consciousness is made of 5 colors, 5 flags. You have the golden flag in the middle. That's your earth, that's your body, that's your central intelligence. That's the round table. And then you have on one side the white and the green, and the other side the blue and the red. Or depends how they put, usually they put the red, gold, white, and green. And the 5 like that in the growing process. It depends where you put, you know, what you like to put in the center. So sometimes it's the red at the center. So it's going to be white, blue, blue, green, red, gold, and white. But those are the intelligences people know they have. And are very clearly differentiated. They know when your mind is connected with calculation, they know it's wood, and they connect immediately how you feel about it, that's white. And you know that all the vitality and the drive to get you there is coming from your pattern of habit, from water, and you're attracted to fire, to a future that you want better for the next generation always. But the decision is coming from the gold inside, from your solar plexus. Pancreas, for people who do Chinese medicine. Yeah, your center. That's your body. That's you right here, right now. That's your consciousness in the present. That works. Yeah, so those, you know, scientists that go to see the Dalai Lama and try to analyze his brain. That's a lot of arrogance there. It's like getting interviewed by a baboon, basically. When, you know, especially a monk spends his whole life, you know, in a monastery, cultivating those 5 intelligences and with nothing else to do. So imagine They are a much different place than anyone in the Western world can ever be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So gives you a real perspective in life, a different perspective.
Andrew has a question.
Go ahead.
Could we, for a minute of fun, talk about how this access applies to animals, like dog, cat, tiger, dolphin? Would be interesting with such a different wood capacity.
Yes, but basically the same thing with animals and even plants. You know, the consciousness is very different. So because it's coming from a different perspective. So, but consciousness, I believe, again, we are fruit of the earth, okay? Anything alive on earth is growing from earth. So our own presence, our own physical presence is coming from the earth. So we are like fruit hanging from a tree. Okay. So the consciousness we have is also coming from earth. Life can only come from life. Life cannot just appear. It has to be transmitted. So that's the water coming out of earth. So earth is a basic support. It's going to hold. So what we call earth is not only the planet earth, but it's a space-time continuum that creates the infrastructure of existence. That's the place where existence can manifest. And that's what's going on in the present, right here, right now. So anything coming out of the earth, man, human or not human, is an extension of that consciousness. We share the same intelligences. But the magic of it is the variety, the differentiation. So much difference already between two human beings. So big difference between two different ethnic groups, or rather than ethnic groups, say culture, because now ethnic groups are so mixed up all around the world. So it depends of your culture, it depends of your educational system, it depends of your heritage, of your social status, of all kinds of things. You have very different perspective of one human being to another. And so different lives, and different perspective on lives. So imagine the difference between something from a different species. So something in different species already, that's a really big gap, a big difference in perspective. So between you and your dog, you have to know that you're living two very different lives in terms of consciousness, okay? But you're sharing that life in the same earth. So the way you, and that's one of the big purpose of being alive is to share the joys of life. So to have a relationship with an animal is extremely enriching in terms of consciousness, because you share a different perspective on life through being with an animal. You are in the woods, you are in nature with the greens, with the vegetal being, and you have another experience of life right there. They experience the seasons, they experience time very differently than the way we do. They experience life differently. So you develop a different kind of relationship. You have your favorite trees, you have your favorite plants, your favorite flowers, your favorite fruits. And that influences your life greatly. Same thing with landscape. Some people are more comfortable on top of a mountain than on water. than being on a boat. Some people are more comfortable in the valley. Some people are more comfortable, you know. It depends what attracts you, what is familiar to you, and the kind of relationship you build with what is part of your life. So there's a whole network. There's a whole network that's established with everything alive that actually share the same consciousness, which is Earth consciousness. That's something we share with everything on Earth. So there's a part of our mind that's connected there with all the animals, with all the, even especially and even with bacteria. We're talking about the bacteria in your guts, you know, and everything. And the relationship you have with the plants is already in your body. Smell. You're attracted to certain smell, you're repulsed by other smells. And that's the relationship you have already with the vegetal world, with plants. And that's how we develop knowledge in medicine, and getting to know what are the plants that's going to guide the own body into recovery, into the healing process. So we're sharing the same consciousness. So I'm not sure if I answered that question about if the animals have the same intelligences. They do. Everything alive have 5 intelligences because they won't be alive. That's the base of biology. If one of the forces is missing, you cannot live. And the qi, we call qi in Chinese medicine, and this energy, life energy, called bioenergy in English. Bioenergy is made of 5 threads, and it's alive. Therefore, it is intelligent. So the intelligences are part of the energy running into the cable, into the metal, into what gives us vitality. And what gives us vitality gives the same kind of vitality on everything alive. So we share consciousness. Does that work? And I know, you know, that we are under like educational system, but there's, oh yeah, no, animals don't think or animals don't feel. So that gives us permission to torture them, you know, kind of thing. And we do the same thing with humans, you know, say, oh, yeah, we say some people, they're not really human, they're barbaric, you know, that, so they allow us to beat them up. Yeah? So that's a pattern of habit that comes from old imperialism, coming from so far in our genes. And we all have those these kind of ideas in the head. Why? We didn't even put them there. They've been put there way before you were born. There's nothing wrong about those ideas being there, because they've been put there. What's wrong is not to be aware that it's not your idea. Yeah. And because under fear, those are kind of ideas are going to spring up. You're going back into the past and being controlled by ideas that controlled your ancestors, that not necessarily relevant in this day and age of human consciousness. That works? Cool. Yes, I'm telling you a lot of things today. So that basically is the roots and the source of understanding life. And it's beyond chemistry, it's beyond physics. It's about the intelligences and the energy that carry those intelligences. And the name for that is called alchemy. We told the old alchemy, and that's what it is. Alchemy is not chemistry. Again, chemistry is important, of course. It's knowing what the universe is made of in terms of physics all the different components, basically the building blocks of everything that exists. So it's good to understand. But that's not life. That's only for, we call inert. There's no life there. To understand even the behavior of chemistry, because you might understand how chemicals behave in between each other, but there's no study in chemistry that studies why one element is composed that way. Because that's the root question of why chemistry. One single variation, one little atomic variation of the molecule of hydrogen, for example, will make it impossible for life to manifest. Therefore, the chemical of hydrogen, the chemical of oxygen, every single element forming the periodic table exists because of blueprint that existed before the chemical was even created. The periodic table is made to create life. So life came before the elements. So the information and the energy, that's the base basically of the universe. And talk now any kind of physicist, people studying physics and at the cutting edge of all consciousness right now, and they will say, there's only two things in the universe. It's energy and information. And what we call matter and different kind of things and all the different elements constituting the periodic table is just a combination of a very precise combination of this energy and information that creates what we call the universe. So we are actually studying the base of what alchemy is. The study of the true biology, where life is coming from, the source really of of existence itself, everything that rules it. It's very precise, and nothing is left to call chance. Even chance is part of the of the combination. Yeah. Yeah, so we stepped into alchemy today. Big word. And of course, it's been demonized because too threatening for both religion. I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm talking about religion, which is the ruling, the churches, the establishment of structure, of a spiritual structure. That's nothing wrong. All the religions in the world are geared towards enhancing your spirit originally, and in fact, yes. So yes, you can enhance your spirit through religion, any kind of religion, but there is a side effect. It's like being restricted to be within the walls of one church. Also restricts the expansion of your spiritual consciousness, and makes you build the differences between schools, between churches, between spiritual entities we call religions. And what's more beneficial is actually, instead of looking for the differences, is actually to go for similarities. What is that exists in all those religions that make them religions, make them spiritual guides, and use them for spiritual guidance. So, there's nothing wrong. Again, the only wrong thing is not to be aware of that. So all that to bring to the point of alchemy that's been demonized both by religion and sciences, because even science is our prisoner. They imprison themselves into the walls of different schools. And those walls are, we don't talk about. That's called taboos. We don't talk about alchemy, that's taboo. And especially not going to the source, because that's sorcery. That's been very efficiently demonized. And sorcery is not the science of dealing with the devil. You know, that's a legend. That's a fantasy. That's a make-believe, basically. There's a true science behind that, which is going to the source of life. And yes, it is scary, but it's something very different than what both science and religion would make you believe of it. Because that's true science, true consciousness. That works.
Yeah, Dad was asking, as you were speaking about science and science and physics, I've heard it said that consciousness is the hard question because there's no proof possible at the moment. Would you equate consciousness with life?
No. Now, that's the beauty of life, is its richness. Consciousness is part of life, but life is not all consciousness. Fortunately, because a lot of time we're not conscious, really, just like, you know, kind of vegging out, doesn't mean you're not alive. So consciousness is to be able to differentiate and distinguish all those different manifestations of life. It's a reflection. Yeah, that's different. And yes, in order to have life, you have to have consciousness. So even though you differentiate your mind into 5 intelligences, it's still one mind, right? So life being created by the consciousness of life and the creation of all the manifestations of life called existence, all this eventually goes to a place where you get conscious of it. It's called consciousness. You know, so all that what we're doing as a fruit of the earth, as a fruit of existence, will be able to be more and more conscious of what life is about. Does that work?
Dad asks, so is consciousness, so you say consciousness is made of wood and metal?
No.
It's probably all intelligence.
Exactly. So everything of you is conscious. You know, even at the cellular level. You know, a cell by itself is an organism. It's a whole organization of life. One cell you can take out of your body is still alive. It's going to function on its own. So there's consciousness in there, right? So again, it's about dimension of consciousness. There is a size of consciousness. So a cell is conscious, but a set of organs is not an organism. It's just part of a bigger organism. That's you. That's your whole body. So for one cell, the next level of independent living, say, of organization, the next level of organism is your whole thing. It's your body. So you have the cell and you have the body. And what is the next set of organization? That's going to be a life of its own. That's what we do with the rest of humanity. That's why humanity has a consciousness. When we talk about cultivating human consciousness through every single being, it's the same consciousness that we have in every single cell that constitutes yourself. And then there is another greater consciousness that's aware of the interaction of humanity with the rest of everything alive. That's a more earth consciousness, your zone of influence, how you know, your food, where your food is coming from and everything, and the interaction you have in the society to create the network that allows that zone of influence to be fed, to have a relationship with others. So consciousness is, there's expansion. So as a human being, you're conscious of your environment, you're conscious of your zone of influence, and a worm is conscious of his environment, is conscious of this zone of influence. A cat is aware of its universe, of his zone of influence. But there's maybe different sizes of consciousness there. It covers different ranges of different aspects. Yeah. So it looks kind of very complex, but it's all included. It's all inclusive. Consciousness is all inclusive. So you have, again, one mind that gives you your whole size of consciousness of being yourself. That includes those different kind of intelligences in there. And you cannot say this one part is more me than another's. No, because you're made of the whole thing. It's a matter of having a clearer perspective on things. And what intelligence influences you more than another's. It does depend on your habits, depends on your education. But that can change. Doesn't mean that you're a different person. No, you grew in something different because you're changing as a person, but you're the same person, changing into a different part of you, enhancing different parts of your intelligence and growing different part of the intelligence in order to enhance that consciousness. I'm talking about growing your soul, sharpening your inner metal, polishing your mirror. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. What else? So very important and to get into details, because it's with details that, you know, again, you make a better synapses and everything. So always remember there's no such thing as a stupid question. And that's usually the most important to answer. And because there's no end to expansion of consciousness. So the foundation and the most fundamental ideas are the most important to deal with. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
On that note, I always learned earth element is spleen, and you call it pancreas. Do you have a distinction?
Yeah, what we call spleen in English is not the spleen in Chinese. That's number one. Spleen in biology, in conventional, you know, medical science, is a big lymphatic gland that filters your blood. That has nothing to do with digestion, nothing to do with what the pancreas does. And that's why in Chinese medicine, they don't call it spleen, they call it spleen pancreas. And actually, they don't call it spleen pancreas. And that's a translation from French and German translation of medical Chinese text. And the Chinese text actually doesn't say spleen or pancreas. They say earth meridian from food to chest, and for chest from head to feet. Depends if you talk about yin or yang. And if you talk about spleen pancreas, that's a yin manifestation. That's the life force that carries the earth energy. Comes from your feet. It goes inside your chest, and that's called digestion. You take the vegetables from the ground that's under your feet, and that energy that you swallow gives you a body. It nourishes your body. So called earth, the earth manifestation of yin manifestation gives you the energy of manifesting yourself as a body. Spleen pancreas in English. There's nothing to do with that. It's the earth force that you digest that makes you you. Basically, you're made of earth through the intermediary of the vegetables you digest. Yeah. And then the yang part, stomach, from head to feet. That's you, the energy you manifested and needs to go back to the grounds in order for your yin energy to go back in. And so there's an alternative current that gives you that earth energy there. And you eat to digest, you eliminate, and you eat and digest, eliminate, it goes up and down all the time. So it's not spleen. It's not even spleen pancreas. It's earth energy from feet to chest and from head to toes, or head to feet. It shows the meridian system. The energy and the information that run through it allows you to exist, to have a body. And when we go more into details of the biology of consciousness, we're going to get in details in every part of the body with the meridian system and the quality of the energy that runs through it that gives you your mind, because that's where it's coming from. That works? Good. That's a classical way of Chinese medicine. It's not traditional Chinese medicine, it's classical Chinese medicine. Meaning it's a Chinese medicine before the revolution of the mid-20th century in China that needed to rationalize Chinese medicine. It was too abstract. And without it, we won't be able, as Westerners, to understand it anyway. So good thing that happens. So we learn something, hopefully. Some doctors still don't believe in acupuncture. I mean, what arrogance. It's not a matter of belief, it's accepting that it has been around for so long. If it's still around, it's because it works. It's not because you don't understand it that doesn't work. It's actually better. It might work better because you don't understand it. Yeah. That's a big handicap we have, you know, and especially in America now, in the United States. We fell back because of our educational system being so bad. We fell back intellectually with the rest of the world. We have to catch up. We have to learn how to learn. Something people forgot. It's not part of what they learn at school. They try to accumulate information that's so contradictory that, you know, people don't know what to believe. So something terrible happened in the United States. We lost our belief system, and we need to recover. And when I talk about United States, you know, it's very general. It's all around the world. It's the Western way of living, a Western way of looking for something that we don't know. We lost knowledge. We lost the connection with the source of knowledge. So we'll never be satisfied. So that's why what we do is for healing. Healing comes with, you know, consciousness, with expansion of consciousness. That's why so many sick people around. And that's what we are realizing now with the COVID-19. People, there's more sick people in the United States than everywhere else in the world. Why? Because people were sick before they got the flu. In the United States, the population is there's a higher level of pathology than anywhere else in the world. Everyone is sick. Everyone's taking medication. Vitality is way down. We need to cultivate vitality in this country. And when we talk of vitality, it's not only the body. It's in the mind first. If the mind loses vitality, the body follows. Because that's the blueprint again. That's the information that allows the energy to run through the body and bring health there.
But isn't that the Western way? If the body follows the mind, and then the Eastern way is the mind follows the body?
In the Western way, there is no mind, it's a brain.
True.
So there's only the body. There's no there's only infrastructure. There is no there's no spirit. Even psychology is being questioned as a science. It's not a science anyway, because psychology, eventually, that's very disappointing, because that's where we had the chance to approach, consciousness. But instead, they went toward neurology and the exploration of the brain again, and trying to explain behavior. It's not enough. That doesn't explain consciousness. So we need to bring ourselves there. Yeah. So that's not about learning. It's about discovering, uncovering the truth that we all have inside. That's what we're doing right here, right now. Is to lift the cover up. We call the good education. Lifting up a good education tells you everything you're being learned. That's all you need to know to live. No, there's much more than that. So to lift up the cover, that obscurantism, all those truths, relative truth we learn that cover up the wisdom we all have in there. And that wisdom can only come out not by learning more, but by cultivating what you already have. It's called Qigong. It's called, practices. It's called meditation. And it's not by learning more, because you always, you know. I'm not teaching you anything that you don't know, again. So uncovering your inner wisdom you all have. The consciousness that we all share. That works? Cool. Only 20 minutes left. Wow, time is going fast. That's okay. We did only water, and with the review of all the other one, I'm not going to step into fire. We don't have time yet. And fire, we're going to leave that for next week. It's a lot of big dimension fire. Yeah. Future is infinite. It's like water. Past is infinite. And that's the spiritual access. Okay, so let's keep going with questions about what we have here.
There's a couple in the chat. If you want to have a look at the chat. If you want to have a look at the chat. A question from Kara and a question from Andrew.
Okay. Let me see chat right here. Andrew. There is a need to devise a 5-element system, while this to a need to devise a system of 3 essences. Well, the 3 senses are made of the 5-element system. We talk what are the 3 senses? Well, that's what we know. With the basic essence, that's your earth, that's your body. And then the personal essence, that's your soul, is made of your wood and metal. and we call the mind in English. Sorry, it's lack of vocabulary here. And then the spirit, which is made of the spiritual axis, which is water and fire. So those are the three essences. So yeah, that's part of the classical Chinese medical system. It's not only medical, it's a classical Chinese philosophy, understanding life. Does that answer the question?
And then it's a question about working with teaching kids.
Yes.
Paris, can you suggest how we can take advantage of kids staying at home from regular school? Is it best to teach the kids? What's the best to teach kids about this priceless knowledge? And
it's
I was looking at
the best way to teach your kids is to learn from them. When you learn from them, just reflect back on what you see. Oh, you feel like doing this that way. How interesting. So as you learn, you're reflecting back on the kids, realizing what they are doing. That's how they learn. They learn what they already know. So they don't need to be taught. Again, you uncovering the knowledge you already have. So by learning from them, you teach them to know what they are about. And then you can add, how you articulate it as a belief system. Say, oh, that's your way of thinking, but it's not the way you feel. And paf, you differentiate it between thinking and feelings. Right here, right now, what's important to you is the way you feel. You connect with Earth, with what's important. I know that you learn to do that because of habit. That's your instinct. But you feel like doing something more exciting because you want to play. When you play, you do something a new way. And that's the fire. That's your attraction. You're attracted to do something. Oh, let's break another toy to see what's going to happen. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Instead of telling them, don't break your toy, but discovering why is it so fun to break a toy. And you learn from that. Yeah. So again, basically it's what I'm doing with you. I'm not telling you have to remember by heart a list of things there. No, I'm telling you, it's like, how does that make sense to you? How is that coming out? How is that little voice thing in your ear? Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah? Connecting with yourself. That's the way I think. That's the way I feel. That's what makes me feel familiar. That's what I'm used to, but that's what I'm attracted to. But right here, right now, I don't feel like any of that. Okay, 5 intelligences right there. So eventually, getting into it, it becomes habit, and then you'll be able to juggle. Learning to juggle is nothing else but getting into the habit of juggling. You're not gonna juggle in one day. It's gonna take a lot of juggling, spending time. That's practice. That's called living. In order to learn about life, you got to live first. Okay. Anything else? I'm not sure if I answered the question. I forgot what the question was about. Oops, I got the wrong thing there. David, any other question there?
Pamela, did you have a question you want to ask?
I can try. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It didn't work the other day.
Right.
I was curious about the, the idea of this human consciousness as a whole and our relationship of the macrocosm and the microcosm. and how, you know, when we're so disconnected and we don't have this healthy relationship with our planet as a whole, I mean, there's definitely a number of us who are working on that. How does that affect our health in our own Earth center, in the solar plexus?
Actually, I'm telling you, it works in reverse.
Okay.
What we have done to the planet, we've done to ourselves already.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the planet is feel like it is sickness, is pathology of pollution, is because there's been established in our bodies already. Just reproducing around us what's already happening in us. So you want to save the planet, save yourself. And if you want to heal the planet, you have to heal yourself. And I tell you, it's immediate. And we're going to do that as we go further into practice. You're going to see that when you do practice those meditations, especially the working that human consciousness through the fusion of the 5 elemental forces within yourself, and start to be able to digest your emotional life better, you're going to see the improvement that it goes in your health. And how you host surrounding, not only the relationship with the people around you is going to improve, but also life situations. The nature around you is going to change. You heal, you know, the land around you by your presence. That's why I always say, you know, healing is contagious. Yeah, you heal yourself and you contaminate your surrounding. That's the way to save the planet. The planet is going to be saved according to the capacity of every single human being to improve their life and their health. Because the way it's going down is because what's happening to people. It's already happened to people. Everything that happened on Earth happened on people first. Yeah, does that make sense? That's in the classical Taoist medicine. That's what we call feng shui. Feng shui is not the art of just buying crystal and little art decoration and put them everywhere around your house. No, feng shui is about qigong. It's about meditation. You build your inner universe and you extend your vitality around you. And that's going to manifest with a different shrine that you put around your house as an extension of your spirit. Yeah. So every single art object or pictures or you know, candles or you know, crystal and everything has a meaning to you first. If it has no meaning to you, it brings that no meaning to your universe around you. Yeah. So we basically build a universe of no meaning because we lost the inner meaning. We lost the connection to our inner source of life, vitality. We need to recover that. That works? Cool. Okay, it's only a few minutes left. So if you want to prepare for next week, you have a document, I believe, that was sent to you that's called the 5 groups of activities to enhance each of the 5 intelligences. This, I keep working at it. I might actually send you a new updated one before next Friday. But you know, check it out and make it a practice, a daily practice, to notice how the shift in your mind, the shift of the different intelligences according to what you do. If you're calculating things, or if you're feeling about things, if you're more into the dreaming stage or into the social, in a social perspective, or if you connect with more with tradition, you know, with things that you, with habits that you feel comfortable with, shifting your mind into what is attracting you, and being practical. You know, it's like right now the vegetables are growing, so don't forget to get into your garden and pick up those zucchinis out there that keep growing like crazy. That's your earth, taking care of your garden and what needs to be, you know, to be done in order to be functional. Okay. Any questions coming in, David? There, you're aware of. Okay, so that's a practice and learning to differentiate like, of course, you know, the mind is not exclusive, and it's all inclusive. Everything's function at the same time, but where your attention is and where you focus more energy at different points of your day, into thinking, into feelings, into being resting, you know, and when you rest, that's water, and you're floating, you know, going into the past, what's familiar, and what gives you enthusiasm, what attracts you, what you really want to see in your future. That's part of your present, and that's your fire. So be able to juggle with that throughout your week. And then that's probably going to make you come with questions. So send the questions. So if you use the blog, this time I didn't have time to go to the blog. So if there is a question that needs to be answered, maybe David, you can do that, maybe email it to me. So
yeah, I will.
So it comes, you know, I'm aware, because I don't have time sometimes. Because even though there is the pandemic, I work with clients, because some clients cannot not have their treatments. And so it's continuing basic health care that I'm providing there. So I get busy. Okay.
Yeah, people can ask. We do have the online discussion forum, but
yes,
only a handful of people have signed up for that. And when somebody posts it, then would email it, or you could just email me and I'll forward it to Gilles. And, you know, I'm collecting all these blog posts that we will post over time.
Good, good. It's going to be nice. Yeah. Okay, so again, don't hesitate. What we call stupid questions, those are my favorite, because it allows me really to cover things coming all the way to the core issues about way of thinking and all that. That's very, very important. All right. Only like a few minutes left. Any need of answers for anything? Okay.
People are starting to request some fusion practice.
Yes, we're gonna get there, but I need to go to the end of the list of the 5 group of activities before we get to the fusion practice, because again we're juggling with the different energies of our minds, and we're going to divide it into really what's going on into the biology, and once we get there, yes, we get into really meditation. But again, it's about cultivating our infrastructure we call the brain, because our mind is limited to the synapses that the poor brain is able to make. And that's what we're doing right now, is building synapses. So the meditation have a structure to stand on, and have efficient results. That works?
Yeah, okay. There's questions flowing in, but we'll have to save them for next time, or email them and Gilles can write about it. Which are always good prompts for Gilles to write, and then, you know, it's good.
And I would, you know, write answers and also bring the question and the answer again during the next Friday practice, so everyone can benefit from it. Okay. All right. I think that's has been a day. Went fast. Every time it goes faster. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hopefully-
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Appreciate
See
it,
you
guys.
next week.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see where I am here. Here we go. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.